Hey friends, this is the Meme Team podcast, where we talk about the logic behind virality, because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture, and this podcast decodes both. We have a special guest this week, so
yeah,
Sonia, I'll give you the floor to introduce Kristen.
Yeah, hi. We'd like to welcome Kristen Culver. She's one of my favorite follows on Twitter. She's a communications consultant who works with founders, in-house teams, and venture capital firms to help them with the current attention economy. She's worked with many of the tech brands you know and love to help them tell their stories. Welcome, Kristen.
Hey, ladies. Awesome to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my favorite thing. Let's talk about what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to start off with Austin's rebrand because Kristen is based in Austin. So I would love your take on this logo rebrand.
I live in Austin. I just got back from rioting in the streets about how terrible it is. No, I think it's universally despised. I've jumped in some Twitter threads, other folks that live here, it sucks. It's just ugly and doesn't represent the city. There's so many other things it could have been. I had read the communications officer for the city of Austin was trying to make the case that it is supposed to represent the lakes and rivers and hills of Austin, but I don't know. I just think it's fugly. There's a cajillion. I mean, there was a thread that I saw where people were like, here's something I made for free on ChatGPT in 30 seconds. And there was probably 40 options that were 10 times better than what they paid $1 million to come up with.
Yeah.
I really hope it becomes a Cracker Barrel thing where the pushback is so strong that they're actually, we changed our mind, and they go with something else.
Yeah. But then they have to pay another $1 million for it.
I'm looking at this headline that says, City of Austin unveils new unified logo as locals unify to trash it online.
Yeah. We are collectively, despise it. So.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is that in my mind, there's always the motto, which I guess is unofficial, but keep Austin weird. This is not weird enough for me. It has to have some personality or something to it to keep that spirit. It also doesn't really speak to the whole Texas vibe or motif. So it's just just looks very bland and corporate for a city that wants to be different. I
mean, the only use case I can think where it looks like it would fit is on the side of a dumpster. It looks like a logo for a company like that. But
that makes sense actually. I
will say the Department of Sanitation type of logo.
Yeah. The old logo was it had all this history and lore. It was Stephen F. Austin. It was his family's crest, and then it was some other iconography that all had meaning. So although it wasn't distinct, or it didn't play to, or I would say it is distinct, but it didn't play to the Keep Austin Weird thing. At least played to the history. It played to Austin's role as the state capital of Texas, which is, I think, important. But they could totally have leaned into something a little bit more quirky. And I'm telling you, there were some absolute genius ones that came out of 30 seconds of ChatGPT.
Someone just kind of prompting it.
Yeah. People were here, this one's better. I saw a great one. It was the Capitol with looked like the lake with a river between. I mean, there was a cajillion options that people were here, take this for free. That would have been better. So I don't know. It's Austin, it just happens to be a part of the year of 2025, terrible rebrands.
For sure.
I really hope they walk it back. I hope they go full Cracker Barrel and walk it back.
I was thinking that it looked kind of it kind of reminded me of personal hygiene, toothpaste logo. And then I saw in skimming the news article that there's a quote from someone on social media saying it looks like a toothpaste logo. So I was wait, same brain here.
It looks it looks like everything but the city of Austin, which is, and it makes you wonder, who was involved in that situation. And
definitely going to want to take credit for it now.
They did. They named and shamed the companies that were working on it, who got paid $1 million. I wouldn't want to be those folks right now.
Oh, no.
Definitely. Awesome. So we're moving on to the news that OpenAI is creating a LinkedIn competitor. And the only reason why I want to call it out is because what they're going to do is try to connect folks with like AI skills to the companies or organizations that need them. So I just want to give it a shout out that it's closer to a dating app than we would have thought, which is something that I brought up previously that I think if they really wanted to, ChatGPT would be able to, connect people that have similar likes and wants and needs and all that. So, step closer to dating app.
I kind of hope they don't do that because, like, or maybe the opposite. They're like, this person has like a lot of red flags. Don't date them, based on what your
Hmm.
ChatGPT history is.
Hmm.
Like,
I mean, everybody kind of Googles who they're going to go on a date with, right? They Google them, they
Yeah.
look them up on Instagram or Facebook or
uh
whatever. They try to, figure out their Twitter. Sometimes, some people are like, hide behind anonymous profiles. But yeah, so imagine if it's ChatGPT's like, actually, this person wouldn't be good for you.
yeah. Back to the original thing about them making like a LinkedIn competitor, I do think it's
Hmm.
smart that they're like essentially taking like a leadership role where they're like,
Hmm.
we are the voice of authority on like AI skills.
Hmm.
I think that's good. Like it seems like a good little niche to carve out in like the war to be like considered the source of truth on AI.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited because, LinkedIn could use a little competition to at least get them to switch up their app, a little. I feel like they haven't really made any changes aside from, adding in TikTok style videos and newsletters, which are just, copying Snapchat and Substack. So, they need a little innovation and maybe this will light a fire under their ass to build some new features that people will like.
Yeah.
Do we know how this new job platform is going to work? No, right?
No,
No,
no.
we
I
don't.
think they're just kind of like talking about it. They're set to
Yeah.
launch it mid 2026.
Okay.
So they're kind
So
of
a
still
ways
like
out.
talking about it. One thing
That's kind
too,
of funny. I'm
though.
imagining now though, like it'll it'll start vetting. What if it starts vetting applicants and it's like, wait, you can't hire this person because their ChatGPT queries are what is marketing,
Oh
how
my
to
god.
marketing. Please
That's
write
really
me a
funny.
marketing strategy.
Or it's like this person's profile is 99.8% written by ChatGPT. All their posts are AI slop. Like, do not recommend.
If they
I
can prove
mean,
it, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I
Yeah.
think
right.
like
That would be great for
yeah,
companies to find
it
that
would
out.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess whose side are they gonna, benefit more? The employer that doesn't want to hire, frauds or, employees that do want to get hired, even though they might be overstretching their abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I can see an early integration being like some type of like badge, like this person is like AI native or
Hmm.
AI certified or like expert level or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I doubt they'd like give it up to LinkedIn. They'd be like they would probably do their own thing. So
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
interesting to see what
exactly.
it turns out to be.
Yeah,
I
we'll
mean, if
see.
it's badges, LinkedIn will be like, we got that. We can do
Yeah.
that.
Oh God.
Do you
Open
need
to
a
AI.
yeah, do you need a frame for your photo? We got you.
Oh my God. Like I said, they're not very innovative.
All
Okay.
right. Next up, we have what, HBO? What's going on here?
So they're renaming things again. So this isn't as big of a thing. They're just kind of switching the names of some of the channels. I just thought it was funny because it's like, do they not have
Read
like
the
any new
room.
ideas of like what they could be doing?
Maybe inspired by Cracker Barrel. They're like, okay, if they switched things up and everybody was talking about them, let's like do it again. I'm glad to hear it's about channels and not about the actual name again, because that would have been probably what, fourth or fifth time they'd done that.
Yep, exactly. So they're just changing channels. HBO2 is becoming HBO Hits. HBO Signature is becoming HBO Drama, and on down the list. So it's not a huge like rebrand the way that HBO Max to then Max was, and then back. But I just thought it was funny that they just can't quit changing names.
That is hilarious. I didn't even
Okay.
see that news because I like assumed it was the old news because they do it so
Yeah,
often.
right. I did have to do a double check about that too, but yeah, it's true. Awesome. Okay, so let's just get started. I want to talk about Reese Witherspoon and her latest comments in Glamour magazine about AI. She said it's so important that women are involved in AI because it will be the future of filmmaking, and you can be sad and lament it all you want, but the change is here. And then they went ahead and asked her what she uses AI for. And she says, I use AI every day. I use search tools like Perplexity. I use vetted AI. Like if you're buying a blender, it'll show you 6 different blenders and recommend the best product. And then I use AI Assistant. Simple AI is an AI assistant that can be really helpful for anyone who doesn't want to make a doctor's appointment. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I feel like she's such a powerhouse in Hollywood, and she's kind of missing the core industry concerns for what AI will do to affect those creative fields. And it kind of deflects those questions of like what it means for AI to be using movies and like books and all that to make, AI art. And it parallels her previous NFT endorsement. So it seems like she's kind of jumping from whatever people are talking about without actually learning what the concerns are within her own industry to speak about those and how they're relevant to her industry. So it's kind of just showing the disconnect between, celebrity endorsements and like messaging and like the industry reality. Also kind of like the shout out of like her having the power to, bring in women because she, has Hello Sunshine, her production company, which is now, such a beast in Hollywood. So yeah, just, would love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's tough because, on one hand, it's an interview with Glamour magazine. It's not a business magazine, it's not a
Right.
tech one. And it's in the broader context of her promoting the morning show. So I get that, but I do see how it's a missed opportunity for her, to your point, to talk about what that future of filmmaking looks like.
Hmm.
Like, I think especially when they asked her, how do you use AI? And
Hmm.
sure, it's fair that she took it as the personal question or kind of went the personal route, and fine. But that could have been the opportunity for her to say, I use AI every day in these ways. But in filmmaking, here's what I see the future can
Yeah.
be, or here's
Hmm.
what I'm doing now, or kind of anything. Like, she definitely doesn't have to be any kind of oracle here, right? But
Hmm.
to your point, Sonia, it is a missed opportunity to talk about what that future of filmmaking truly looks like, at least from any kind of a single point of tactical execution, right? Not, she doesn't have to get into the hardcore of like the ethics behind it,
Hmm.
but she could talk about, perhaps, and I'm going to make this up because I'm not in the film industry, but she could talk about perhaps the more technical, onerous tasks that
Yeah.
could be handled by some kind of AI tool or LLM.
Yeah, she could have bridged. She could have said, like, we're always going to need the creative minds to do XYZ, but like now we can storyboard faster. We
Hmm.
can, get some visual representation of a scene like up for us, and we can like iterate quickly. So it's going to save us time on XYZ, but we're always going to do, you know, the rest of this. Like, I think that's what the industry is kind of like needing right now, especially from somebody like her
Hmm.
who's in a leadership position. So yeah, she could, and I mean, I'll give her grace that like it's Glamour magazine and she had, 3 column inches or whatever, but in one sentence, she probably could have like brought a lot more clarity to this whole situation.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Oh, Kristen, I also want to ask, comms expert,
Hmm.
could you elaborate a little bit more, like for our audience, what bridging is?
Bridging, oh yes, oh my gosh, let's take it right back. But it is saying what you want to say or what you need to say, um, what your task at hand is, saying another statement and then kind of bridging back to the topic at hand. Or it is, I want to talk about AI. I want to bridge to like current cultural relevance, and then I want to like carry on with like whatever the topic is. But it's essentially bringing 2 topics together in a way that feels cohesive, but also allows you to like say what you want to say while also answering the question.
Yeah,
So it's
politicians do this all the time.
yeah, it's some
And
good
so should
Jedi mind tricks.
celebrities.
Yeah, and some suck at it and some are so great at it. You're like, what did I just hear? What did this
Hmm.
Right,
person just say? Yeah.
where Donald Trump is effective at it is that he steamrolls you, right? He just
Yeah.
says what he wants to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him a great bridger. Like he would be somebody who like doesn't bridge that often. Like
That's
he
actually
just
true, you're right.
yeah,
He
he
doesn't
just
bridge,
is
he
like
steamrolls. It's
I'm
not
going to say
bridging.
whatever I want to say like and that's it versus somebody else. Somebody who bridges is cognizant of what's being asked. They're cognizant of like what's important to get out and then tries to like merge the two.
Yeah, you're entirely right on that, you're right. Trump doesn't bridge. That's the whole point.
But his comms director is great at it. She will like repeat a question and then she will bridge to whatever the hell she wants to talk about in the in one of those briefing things. So she'll kind of, she'll say like, okay, you care about immigration, and then she'll bridge to like an administration talking point. And then that's how she gets through answering a question that she doesn't really want to answer.
Yeah. One other thing that you mentioned while we were discussing this is that she seemed like she had been prepped by her publicist or her team about like what the answer should be. So can you kind of like give us details on how that usually happens?
Yeah. I mean, I read the answer to this question as like, I can kind of visualize it in the back of the room as like her and her publicist are like prepping for the interview. Like, okay, we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z, like of the current moment, AI is like such a topic that everybody is talking about and wants to hear about. And I'm sure it bridges to like other conversations she may have had with the reporter in the past, or just like what the initial conversations were. But yeah, it read very much as like, okay, let's make sure we get out the AI talking points because everybody's talking about AI right now and like you want to join that conversation, which is kind of like sadly like a classic comms thing, which is, make sure you address the current thing so that you're kind of like relevant.
Yeah. The other thing was the fact that her first sentence was that it's important to get women involved because, Reese Witherspoon, it's like she's very famously like, wants to put like women in the conversation, which yes, all the power to her. Like one of the reasons why I admire her is she keeps her friends working, right? She gets Nicole Kidman in there. She creates Big Little Lies season 2 and 3 because like she's going to keep us all, watching that show and she wants to keep them working. So I like in that respect, like you can see her hustling to get more women focused shows out there and narratives and storylines and all that. But here is where you're kind of just like, it's like a throwaway sentence of like, let's get women involved in AI, but not really saying like, this is what I'm actually going to do to like facilitate women working in the space when she has that power, right? With like her production company, which even though it's been sold off and all that, she still is involved with it on a pretty like, daily basis. It's kind of, for me, kind of giving up that responsibility of like her being a producer, founder, industry leader that could carry more weight in like how she affects that change.
Yeah, I guess in her defense, like Hello Sunshine, I think is like has a pretty laser focus on like women-led stories. I think all the stories they option are like by female authors.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm remembering that right. So I think she definitely like walks the walk and practices what she preaches. But like, yeah, it seems kind of like pedantic to say that, or like redundant. Like, obviously anyone with a pulse needs to be like figuring out AI right now. It's not just women.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think where I'm reluctant to criticize is I if that statement seems shallow, I still agree with it in the broad strokes of women should be using AI. The reason I have is these tools, as we know them right now, these large language models. I mean, we can debate the AI versus large language model thing, but we don't need to right now. But like AI as we know it tends to be large language models are, these are all the input that went into making this what it is our history, right? Everything we've done online. But a lot of our history is largely men driven, right? And then these tools are also machine learning. So the more we use it, the more we're influencing it, the more we're giving it data. And women are about 20% less likely than men to use generative AI. So where I would say that yes, women really do need to be using it. Like, yeah, anyone with a pulse, I agree, but women in particular, do it, because if we don't, then these models are going to be continually influenced by men and men-focused points of view. It is an opportunity for women to quite literally get that seat at the table and influence the large language models to, maybe it's a small step forward, but it's a step towards that more equitable society.
Yeah, well, you're going deep. I hadn't
Yeah.
considered the
I'm like,
patriarchal
that's a
aspect
great
of it.
answer. She could have said some of that,
Reese, call me. I know
You
you. I
know?
know. I'm sure you listen to this podcast,
Right? Exactly. Maybe it'll make its way to her. But that's the point. That's why I think she needs to hear this, right? She needs to get the pushback of like, it's not enough for you to just say, ooh, women talking point, AI talking point. It's like, no, like this is why it's important. And this is why I'm pushing for it to be, a thing.
Yeah,
And, she's constantly talking about the storytelling being a thing. Like, this is part of the story that women aren't getting their voices heard because they're not as involved.
I was just gonna say, I think it's like a natural place for her to sit in this debate. Like she is a leader on like the female like filmmaker and producer and production side, and she should like step up into that role as an advocate. I will say, like, maybe she is behind closed doors or in like trade press or things that we may not be seeing, but like this was like a very obvious place where she could have said like one or two more things that could have been
Right.
additive to the debate. And there was a whole ass strike about this for like a year or something that like,
Right.
that took
true.
away like all of our Netflix shows for a really long time. And so people they maybe forget that like AI was a huge part of why they were all on strike, like trying to figure out rights and all of that. But yeah, maybe people have forgotten, but it's like very important. And I would love to her to say more to like the general consumer, because I do think we're all considering like the influence and aspects of and the effects of AI on our lives. So like having her talk about it, how it affects her and like, you know, Hollywood would have been an interesting shining example.
Exactly. That's the other thing, right? Like, there's a lot of topics within AI that, just her talking about her personal use doesn't like talk about, the creative rights, the job displacement, quality control, revenue sharing, like data ethics that like is the conversation within Hollywood about AI. And I think if you are going to like, dip your toe in, then at least one of them,
Yeah.
have an opinion on one of them. You don't have to know everything, right? Like it's not her. It's not that. It's just she is a leader in Hollywood. And these are the concerns of all working actors, all writers, all like producers. And if she's coming out to, talk about it, then she should have an answer, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and maybe they did talk at length about it, but Glamour was like, okay, we get like two paragraphs. So we need to talk about like how do you go from day to night? Like some of this more like
Yeah, right.
like the lighter side of it. We'll see. But I would
also
like
want
to
to know
see
if
our
she's an investor in Perplexity. Why did she mention Perplexity versus ChatGPT? Just saying.
Wouldn't it be sad though if she did? By the way, like if she did talk about AI and
And they cut her
filmmaking,
off.
and if they just cut it because they're like, oh, that's boring. Nobody
Boring,
wants
yeah.
that. They want to go day to night.
Yeah, maybe. Glamour, show us the, release the tapes or whatever.
Release the files.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Awesome. Okay. Let's move on to topic number 2. Kristen.
Okay. I had tweeted about this maybe like a week ago, but I thought it was very interesting. We have kind of like our first big messy collapse of the AI era. I happened to like look at the internet through the lens of like, ooh, what's like the storytelling or comms lens? I can't help it.
That's what this podcast is for.
Okay, perfect. And it's like
the comms, the marketing, the storytelling narrative. Why is that being said versus all the other choices,
Totally. I think we have an interesting like case study across a bunch of topics here, but for anybody who missed the headlines about Builder.ai, they've been going on for like a couple years. It was a scandal a couple years ago that basically they were found out their product wasn't matching what their promise was. They were like, basically, they were multiple years ago, like basically the promise of like, we could vibe code this, we could take your engineering needs and shrink them down, like work with us and you won't need 100 engineers, you'll need like 2 or 3. And in Builder.ai. They were a $1.5 billion unicorn, which is like kind of pedestrian if you think about it, of like in the era of
Barely a
everybody else.
unicorn, you know?
Yeah, like so, like yeah, compared to their AI brethren now. But that aside, like they had financial misconduct, they had a
Wait,
scheme to
so
inflate revenue.
they remember, sorry, you didn't mention that it was the human developers were actually building the apps behind the
Yes.
scenes.
Yeah.
It
Oh yeah, yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
an AI.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
said that, so the CEO said that the company uses deep learning models, so a mix of long short-term memory as well as natural language processing and reinforcement learning.
All the
But
buzzwords.
yeah, all the buzzwords, but in 2022, The Information published an article that said that they weren't using AI. They were having contractors in the Philippines manually complete each sale.
Yeah. And not even each sale. It was like they were the engineers, like kind of
Mhm.
like
Oh
like
god.
a Santa's workshop type thing, but for the internet, of like we're saying our technology can do it, but it's actually like, coders in like a click farm place offshore doing it, which is obviously insane given what they were selling to the market. Um, but I looked at this and I was like, this is like a tale as old as time. But I think the first big meaningful one in like the AI era, which is like it feels very lofty and frothy right now, but like especially a couple years ago, the things that they were saying, like it was like, wow, people were really like enamored with the idea of what these folks were selling, but they came out swinging in the early
Mhm.
era, in like the early innings of AI, like saying they had all kinds of capabilities, all kinds of revenue, which it all ended up being totally false. Like their automated tech was manual work. Also, like I was dying when I was reading more about this. Their CEO wasn't he didn't go by CEO. His title was Chief Wizard, which is like, okay, red flag number one. Also, like, has anybody seen The Wizard of Oz? It was actually like a guy, a guy
That's
behind the
true.
scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it ended up being the same thing.
yeah, it ended
Metaphor for the
up.
whole company.
He's like, hey, this title was not wrong, okay?
Yeah.
That was his only way of being honest about it. I
Yeah.
mean,
So
I
he
do.
was honest about something.
Yeah. That being said, when CEOs or when leaders, founders change their title to something unconventional like that, usually, not always, it's because they're stepping into a different leadership role
Yeah,
that isn't a CEO, right? So back in the Moz days, when Rand Fishkin, co-founder and CEO, when he stepped aside as CEO, he was the Wizard of Moz. Because Wizard of Moz, that's kind of funny.
I
But it was because he wasn't the
yeah.
CEO
Yeah.
anymore. But yeah.
Rand is so smart and so good, but that is cringe in my opinion. Like
Back in the day.
I know I don't love that. It's like because I don't know. On one side, I encourage whimsy, but I don't know. For things that seem like serious, I don't love it. That's just my personal thing. I'm sure people smarter than me have a different opinion, but like when people are like chief ninja or like evangelist or have these kind of like titles, I don't love it. Especially not this
I don't
guy,
love it either. I
the
don't love it
wizard.
today. Yeah, I don't love
Yeah,
it today, but he was kind of the first one to do it.
yeah.
So, like, this was, oh
And
my gosh,
Wizard
how
of
many years ago now?
Moz,
It's like, this is like 10, 15 years ago at this
yeah.
point.
Mm.
So,
There's
yeah.
one company in the world that could be Wizard of Moz because it is such a play on words. So okay, I'm back on his side about that. But
Did you just realize the Wizard of Oz reference?
no,
Is
no,
that
no,
why?
I
Oh, okay.
knew, but like as I rationalized it in my head as we were talking, I'm like, okay, it's not as bad. But this guy who ended up being a fraud, the CEO of
Mhm.
Builder.ai,
Yeah.
or didn't live up to what he had sold the market. Just it was just like very poetic that his title was Chief Wizard.
Yeah. Oh, for
But
sure.
yeah, and I think there's some real lessons here. Like, and we see this actually often or like semi often in the market, which is a company that's trying to basically like yap its way into being a real durable business, but before they have the technology or like the real business acumen
Oh,
or
that's
like,
all the rage right now,
yeah,
right? I
totally.
mean,
That is the world we're in. Our girl Lulu Chang Mercuri, she says all the time that like your ship to yap ratio has to be correct, and I agree with
Mhm.
that. Like
Right.
what you are shipping has to outpace the amount of yapping that you're doing. So folks that are out there like talking about what they have or what they're building without like actually shipping, those are the ones that are on shaky ground. And for Builder AI, they were yapping enough to get, investors and customers, and they were like early AI darling, but it ended up being a big, house of cards. Um, which
Yeah, I think
is like,
we're seeing that a lot in how companies are doing that, right? Like I was
mhm,
making fun that, oh, it's like all the rage right now. I mean, we've seen that recently with
yeah,
like Humane AI. We just saw that with like Friend, the pendant that just came out. A lot of
Closely,
what seems to be, yeah, Cluely, which we've talked about here before. A lot of what that seems to be is they are really great at like talking about things and like speaking to the vision or the aspiration of where the product is going to be. But as soon as, the product starts coming out, we start getting reviews from people that it's not where it's supposed to be or it's not doing what it's promised. And I think a lot more people and customers are starting to get a little more um uh like angry
yeah.
because like their trust is being eroded in terms of like what you're saying is not matching what you say you're going to be doing.
Yeah, it's a really delicate dance because
Mhm.
think about it. You go in when you first pitch VCs, you are pitching them for that investment. You're pitching like a vision of the way that you believe the world should exist if your
Mhm.
product or the way the world should look if your product exists. Um, and if they buy in, you get the money. Now it's like, okay, time to build. And then you start talking about it and doing comms and like doing PR, being in the media is a very high leverage, low cost activity. So like you can get a shit ton of pipeline built and hire and accomplish a million things for very little money if you do it well. But the timelines on those like have to match up. Like what you're building versus all the other motions, they've got to kind of like fall in lockstep, or you're going to end
Mhm.
up like Builder AI, where you've out yapped yourself. You've made all these promises. You've sold into these customers who like believe what you've said, and not what you've done. And then you get caught kind of like, emperor has no clothes. Um,
Mhm.
and then, the market always, you know, it's undefeated. Like
Mhm.
they will, if you end up in that situation, like the market will like write the press release and the obituary for you. Like, the truth always prevails. So it's a tough dance these companies have to do.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think one of the things that I constantly talk to my clients about is there's a difference between marketing to a VC, which, they want to hear that big aspirational vision that you have for like the company and where you're going to end up versus marketing to your customer who like
Hmm.
they want a more realistic story about like where the product is now. And I think a lot of companies get caught up in that, visionary tale that they've, already sold to the VC thinking that that's what your customers want. And it's great to talk about it in the context of like, this is why we're building this product and that's going to be on the roadmap later. But right now, this is what we can do. And like, these are the steps that we're at now that will lead to that eventual, like I want to shout out Loyal here, right? The company that's doing the,
Dog
you know,
longevity.
yeah, the dog longevity, right? Whereas like she's even come out and said like we're starting with, dog longevity because that's a little bit easier with like FDA trials and everything. But eventually the goal is to get to human longevity, right? So she's not talking about human longevity as like we're almost there, like we're getting there, right? It's like it's always in the context of like, dogs. And I think that in and of itself has caught on as like the bigger goal right now because who actually like has a dog doesn't want their dog to live longer, right?
I know.
So it's like really worked out that like, she's able to sell that narrative right now. And I think a lot of companies can take, that as an example of like selling where you're at now, and then taking people along with you on the journey, right? Like she started off that being the goal and then has talked about how like each FDA trial and like the different steps, right? Like, but taking people so that they know how long it takes to actually do an FDA trial and get accepted and like, do
Yeah.
all this. And that's getting her press now. I mean, she was just featured in like, was it Time magazine or Inc magazine where
All of them. They've been
mm-hmm,
doing a great job. And I will say about Loyal, I know a little bit about like their behind the scenes press thing, is that they don't have a product in market right now. Like
mm-hmm,
they're not, the dog longevity product isn't even out yet. Like I think it's a 2026 thing. So she has done an incredible job
right.
like selling in the vision of what it will be when they get to the first step. Um But I
Well, they
think
have the
it's
clinical trial. So it's
okay.
not a product, but they have the clinical
Yeah.
trial. So
But
she's talking about
that,
that.
yeah, but she's in a different category because she's not like take booking revenue from individual customers
Totally.
and promising them that she's going to like 10x their engineering output, um, in 90 days kind of thing, which Builder AI did and like obviously shouldn't have because
Yeah.
they
So I would
couldn't.
love your take as like a comms person that two takes here.
Yeah.
One is like the original thing that led them to this where he was just over yapping. And then the second one, now that this has happened, what would you do to kind of clean up the mess?
Well, I
If
mean,
you can at all.
well, Builder AI, like they can't, there's nothing to clean up. I think they're like
Hmm.
bankrupt, dead. Like, I don't think there's, when I look at them as like the Theranos or the Juicero of the
Hmm.
AI
So it's like done.
era, they're done. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
how
it's
you
being
come back.
liquidated. It's
Yeah,
done. Yeah.
liquidated. They're Enron for AI. They are like, they're gone. So
But it can't be like
luckily,
Humane where they get like acquired by a HP for like, a good amount of money that they all kind of end up, doing
I
decently
mean,
off of it.
I'm happy for those Humane people because they had an outcome for something that seemed like it was very lofty when they came out. Like, I actually think those folks had no idea how bad it was going to go. Like, they came out with
Hmm.
that very earnest launch video where they thought
Video.
they were like changing the world with their little
Hmm.
pin on thing, and they
Hmm.
just got like absolutely dunked on, and people were like, this is so cringe, but if it's good, there's always a market. Like, there's that
Yeah.
whole mantra of like, you only need 1,000 customers sometimes for like a
Hmm.
great business. Like, maybe there's going to be a ton of early adopters that were going to love that product.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
that did,
remember when the launch video
Mhm.
came out, people were like, wow, like this would be cool, blah, blah. For me, the turn didn't happen until they started shipping those initial like runs of like the people that had actually purchased the product, right? It was like
For sure.
$350. It, got to their house and they're like trying it on and it did nothing of like what the
Totally.
product said it was going to do. So I think, yeah, it's kind of started there, like the over promising, under
Yeah. I mean,
delivering type narrative.
Yeah, I
any,
think the case though of Humane versus Builder is Humane they made the product. It
Hmm.
just was terrible. In the case of Builder, they defrauded people.
yeah.
Right?
And
They said, "Oh, we're using AI for this thing," but they weren't even doing that. They were using cheap labor.
But that
yeah,
wasn't the
they're,
part that was the defrauding, right? The
Well, also the
defrauding was
sales.
the
They also like they inflated sales. Like that's also a lie. Yeah.
they were
I
basically
think
saying
Humane just
there's,
sucked.
yeah.
I think that's the difference.
I
yeah,
think you're right. Okay, so for Builder, they had like two things that were bad. They were essentially selling people like a home run version of the technology when they were only on first base in terms of capabilities. And then they were cooking the books.
yeah.
So both of those things are bad. Like 0 out of 10, don't do that. Um, and then Humane, they had a launch video that was like intriguing because people are like, what the hell is this? Or like, oh,
Hmm.
interesting. But yeah, then once you get it in people's hands, then like that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's when like the true like reputation and um like product reviews and like future of the company is determined. I think we've seen that a little bit um with Vision Pro by Apple. Like, I don't want the
Hmm.
ghost of Steve Jobs to like strike me down, but um
I'm
I
sure
think
he
that
also would have many complaints that
for
are
sure.
similar to yours.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone would have been fired, but like that was a product that everyone like was very hyped, and then once people got it in their hands, I never have tried it on. If anybody here has like played with it, let me know. But it was like overhyped, and then people were like, I don't actually think I
So
need
I think
this.
there's
Yeah.
a difference there in terms of what was overhyped. I think the Vision Pro, from what I hear, people actually like the Vision Pro and like how it functions. The problem is that there's not enough content for them to use the product on. So they're just like, okay, so I bought this, $3,500 product that I can't actually use on anything, relevant. And we've talked about this before because they did that, Bono documentary that was like filmed purely for the Vision Pro. And like at the time we were just like, well, but who are you making this for? Because people that would buy the Vision Pro are not overlapping with Bono fans. So it's like, great that you've made this product and it's amazing, but like you should be creating the content for them, whether that's like, immersive, concert experiences with bands they actually like, or immersive gaming experiences for, people that like gaming, that kind of stuff.
Right,
Totally.
because all the content for it was, if you went and did a demo, I mean, I imagine you could probably still do a demo, but it's all demo content, which obviously makes sense in the context of a demo. But the content that you get to see if you were to purchase the product is like expanded demo content. It's content that's like, wow, look, it's like Alicia Keys is right in your living room. Or, wow, look at this soccer footage. It looks really cool. And it definitely does look very cool, but that's not how people experience these things. Like,
Yeah.
Alicia Keys is not in my house. Okay, put me at her concert.
Yet.
Right? Yet. I haven't invited her over yet. No, but I mean, it's, okay, then put us in the concert. Sell tickets to a virtual show where it's not really a virtual show. It's an actual concert that you get to feel like you are in virtually. Or soccer games, right? Like, give us the World Cup. Put me on the field.
I have a brilliant idea. Like, they need to do a partnership with the Sphere in Vegas, and like you can stream the
100%.
Okay. Anyways, side note, but maybe to wrap this up, I think there's a thematic through line for all of this. You have to nail the hype versus like actual product trajectory. Like, the hype cannot outpace the actual reality of the product and what it can do. And I think it's it's always been true. I mean, since the beginning of time, but like there's folks like you see these like Builder.ai like spectacular flameouts, and I suspect we're going to see a lot more of them in probably the next 6 to 12 months, just because everything is so hypey right now. If you're a founder or a comms person watching this, I would say like really be mindful about this narrative you're telling at the pace at which you're telling it, because you do as much as you want to like, pull that lever to like get narrative to open all the pipeline for you. It has to be done at the right pace. Otherwise, you're going to be screwed.
Definitely.
That's a good wrap up.
Yeah. Speaking of overhyping updates, Amanda, you want to tell us about Instagram?
Or long-awaited updates, right? So a couple of news items, or new features from Meta. So Instagram finally has gotten its iPad app.
Yeah, I think I've tried to download Instagram on an iPad maybe like 10 years ago, and it wasn't there.
Right,
This
is
blowing my mind.
But now in the iPad app, it's optimized for the larger screen. And so people can see their feeds, Reels, stories, their content creation tools, even their chat inbox. Reels is the landing experience, which makes sense to me, right? Because if you're using an iPad, Reels would be something that shines on this app, like a nice viewing experience. There's also a new following tab with 3 filters. There is all the standard followed accounts, the ones that you follow, friends or mutuals, and then the latest or the strictly chronological view. And now the messaging shows both the inbox and threads side by side, so comments can be expanded while watching Reels. So, which sounds like a really nice user experience if you are on your iPad using Instagram.
I do wonder how many people are doing that, though.
It makes me wonder whether this was like just not a priority at Meta for so long, which is kind of wild to think that like they couldn't just like kind of like do a couple lines of code and make the iPhone app bigger visually, or is it a referendum on like iPad ownership and usage, where it's like it's actually not that big, and so they're like, we don't need this because iPads are maybe like a relic of a different time, or only for toddlers these days. I don't know.
Well, I wonder though. I think what's interesting though is, so one, maybe they were saying, okay, people with iPads do download the Instagram app, but it is what it is. It's secondary means
we don't care about you.
Of accessing Instagram, right? Because it's not I think most people who have an iPad don't have a 5G one, right? It's connected to Wi-Fi. But the other interesting thing is, I feel like this really signals the shift that we've been seeing of social media going from friend-based to entertainment or media-based, right? Because now that we have Reels, it's the age of the creator and influencer. Now more than ever, we're seeing people turn to social media like Instagram for the purpose of entertainment, right?
Mhm.
So that you could watch stuff.
I
And
think you're
what better
nailing it.
device to watch stuff just cozy in your bed or on your couch than an iPad?
Agreed. I think you're nailing it because we have definitely crossed over that line. It's not just about like staying up with your friends from high school or whatever. It is like deep content consumption.
Yeah. Although I personally use Instagram for the friend stuff.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's my
um,
personal use, but I
mhm.
understand it's not that doesn't signal the first use case or the leading use
Yeah.
case now.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
why I would
Yeah.
be curious to see what they've seen in their numbers of like who's using that iPad and like what content that they're, watching on there. Because otherwise, like why would they take well, A, why would they take this long to do this? And then B, launch it now. There
Mhm.
must have been some change in like what they're seeing in the demographic using the iPad to be on Instagram.
Yeah. A couple
I-
other news I think it's also interesting. You can now pin your own comments on your post. So this is like another link in bio mechanism in a sense. I mean, we still
like on an
cannot.
Instagram post. So like
Yeah, yeah,
I can comment on my own Instagram post and like,
and then
ta-
pin it.
okay, I love that for brands, right? Like
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, I'm assuming you're going to say something smart and clever in the
The
caption, but
caption.
then,
Hmm.
but then if you want to have like additional context or say like maybe you're like the comments are going in one direction and you
Mhm.
want to like surface something and not have it get lost.
Right, or if you
Very
wanna if
brilliant
you're
function. Yeah.
or if you're a creator and you're getting dragged for something, you could comment and be like, "Hey, I realize this is what I said, this is what I meant." And people can see that first.
There's a lot
Or
of use cases for
there's a
this.
lot of that, but there's also, if you're running a raffle or a giveaway, you can do a pinned comment that's like, "Oh, this contest is now closed." Right? There are a lot of
Yeah.
different
Hmm.
kinds of use cases. You still cannot embed links. So you could try saying, hey, check out memeteampodcast.com, which I may or may not have tried.
Yeah.
And it won't be clickable, but at least you can put it there, right? At least you can
Yeah.
put the additional context. So
Yeah.
that's kind of exciting. We are living in a zero-click world, friends. This is it.
I mean, I got to give it up to Meta and the team for doing like the most obvious things. Good job,
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, last thing here is I just saw this like while we were talking. It's if you are on Threads, the Threads app, if you screenshot it on your iPhone, I'm saying iPhone because it's not available on Android yet. If you screenshot it on your iPhone, then it adds, Threads will add a little at or Threads icon to your screenshot so that, if you're reposting that screenshot, people will know it's from Threads.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah,
I saw
that's
that
kind of
when I
nice.
recently downloaded, sorry, not on Threads, but I saw it
Mm.
on Instagram where you can now download videos and it'll have the like,
The
the logo
watermark?
there. Yeah, the watermark,
Ah,
kind of like they do for TikTok. So, that makes
yeah.
sense.
Makes sense. Oh, yeah, kinda like YouTube Shorts too. They also have the watermark when you download the video.
That
Hmm.
makes sense. Although I think they have a unique look and feel. Maybe not everybody is like so online that they know it's like a thread versus a tweet.
Totally. Yeah.
Smart. Again,
Yeah.
good job, Meta, doing
Yeah.
the obvious things. We love that.
Pretty good.
Leaning into
And
the branding and the UI. I love it.
did you guys see, because I am still kind of refreshing feeds here. Apple just announced the iPhone Air,
Oh, just right now as we've been
like
recording.
just now. Yeah, like
Oh.
50 minutes ago.
Okay,
I'll
time to
drop
bring.
it in the
Do
in
we
the
need to
chat
bring out the
here.
meme, the infamous meme every time they announce a new iPhone of like the old man holding the shirt, wearing the same shirt, holding up the shirt? Do you know what I'm
Oh,
talking about?
yeah. Well, that's why. Is it different, Amanda? Different enough?
It's much, much thinner.
I love an iPhone. I've had one since the moment they came out, but like they keep changing them up a little bit, which is like I don't, as a user, see a meaningful difference. But I have to keep buying all these new cases because they like move the camera
Yeah, the cases,
placement
yeah.
or they make it thinner now, whatever. But it's like okay, like for example, like it has my name on it. Now I
Oh,
got to
that's
get a new
cute.
one. It is super cute. Thank you, Bobble Bar.
It is.
But now I got to get now I got to get a new case, which is
Yeah,
like
for your super thin iPhone Air.
yeah.
Well, this reminds me of, remember when the newest version of like the latest thin one that like would bend in like men's pockets because, they would sit
Yeah.
down and so like their phones would like bend. I'm like, so is this phone not gonna have that
I
again?
wonder.
I'm sure it's been tested and retested. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't need a thinner phone. I think the only use case is like for the patriarchy, for the men that are like, okay, I need a thinner phone in my pants. Like I don't need
It
a
was
thinner
the
phone, but other people might.
Yeah, I
That's
want
so
a
funny.
smaller phone. I was thinking about that recently because I was just at the
Mm.
Oasis concert and I, had my phone in a pocket and it didn't really fit. I'm like, ugh, I remember when it was like the tiny little phone that you just kind of put in there
Yeah.
and it could just stay there and you didn't have, to worry about it falling out in the bathroom.
Like
Yeah,
a
no, you're right. It's not so much the thickness; it's
Mm-hmm.
the
size.
overall size, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it still like sticks at the top of your back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yeah.
it just, if you're in a situation or a place where you don't need to have very secure your phone, super secure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're like, I'm gonna keep accessing it. So yeah, your back pocket. It would be nicer if it were smaller.
Mm-hmm. To be
Yeah,
fair,
or
I
you,
have the bigger phone, not like the smaller phone, because I'm like, I still want the screen size to be bigger. So
Mm,
it's yeah, you can't please people. Is
you
my point.
can't. Yeah, that's
or
true.
maybe they
Yeah,
figure
it's
it
true.
out like why they have like the regular, the pro, and then the pro max
Hmm.
to like small,
Yeah,
medium, large. I don't know.
yeah.
Or you could do like what my boomer dad does, and he has kept the small version. I don't even he might be on like the
How does it
6 or
still
something.
work?
I don't know. I need to check in with him. That's why I have to call him on his landline now because it doesn't work
Oh
anymore.
my
No,
gosh.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, some people are just like they find the size that they like, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
stick with it because they don't want, we're not going bigger, we're not going smaller, we're not going thinner. Just like leave it.
Hmm. I definitely don't think you need a new one every year. Well, I'll probably end up getting that because I'm in that program. So I will let y'all know how how it
Yeah.
is.
Should we go over specs quickly? Might as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the new iPhone Air features the new N1 chip design, promises all-day battery life with up to 40
Ooh,
hours of video
Okay,
playback,
that I
which is pretty
can
nice.
use.
That
Yeah.
would be nice, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
it also
okay.
has the 48 megapixel dual camera system. The 18 megapixel selfie camera also supports center stage.
Interesting.
Don't
It's
know what
back
that
to
is.
one
Yeah.
camera instead of the three that they did for the last phone.
Oh, yeah. Well, because it's so thin now, maybe.
Hmm.
It also comes in black, white, beige, and light blue, and starts at $999 for 256 gigabytes of storage. Available for pre-order starting Friday, September 12th, with
They really
availability the week after.
they really need to do something about the colors. Their colors are just so blah.
I know. I want pink. I'm like
That's what I want. Like,
unapologetic. I want pink.
mm-hmm.
But
Same.
I guess it doesn't matter because then I just put a case on it, But I feel like Steve Jobs would have gave us better colors. And Johnny Ive, this current like
Yeah.
administration over there, like doesn't care what we want.
Awesome. So let's move on to takeaways. So for the Reese Witherspoon and AI thing, I think the biggest thing for me is that, authenticity theater just doesn't work here. If you're going to talk about something, especially that's like, a hot topic in your industry, like talk about the issues that matter to the people in your industry. And it's not enough to just, say the buzzword because it's the buzzword that everybody's talking about. And then also put it in the context of like, what it means for like your industry and don't just, bring in that like women because that's like your pet project need to be an AI. Learn a couple lessons from what Amanda said about why it's important for women to actually be in AI. And don't just say we need women in AI.
Gosh, got it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Takeaway from the Builder AI meltdown, you have got to have the product to back up the narrative. The pace of your storytelling cannot outpace your pace of building. You've got to you got to back up what you're selling with what you're building. And I think in this current era of AI where it's actually like easier and faster to build, at least that's the promise of it all. Like, just make sure that what you're selling as a narrative is it like really exists foundationally in your product.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like we'll be reading your obituary in the news soon.
Yeah. Yeah. An additional takeaway for me for the Builder AI one is that I think your customers are smart enough to go on the journey with you of like how you're building and what you're building and whatever stage you're at, and that they want to know the truth about like what you're building and that your product actually is going to do what it says. Don't be afraid that like if you don't sell the vision to them, that they won't care about you. I think that people know that you're just starting out, you're a startup, and they want to follow you on that journey. So talk about that journey and don't just sell this vision that's not going to meet up to their expectations, because that's going to annoy them and piss them off a lot more than if, you hadn't done that.
Yeah, and maybe the adage of like timing is everything
Mm,
comes true here, where it's like the timing of when you talk about things, the timing of when you launch things, like
mhm.
cadence and timing and pacing. It's like very, very important in tech, more than people realize.
Yeah, for sure.
And for Instagram's iPad app, finally coming out with the iPad app, long time coming, I think this really signals that nail in the coffin for social media used for social purposes, where it really is now the primary use case for so-called social media is entertainment. And I think with the rise of Reels, right, it's the app is defaulting to Reels, the way that people are following creators, influencers on social media, all that point to this new world of media, I guess, where it's this sort of blend of parasocial relationships and entertainment.
Yeah. Actually, that kind of reminds me of one of the recent things that Netflix just announced was now they're letting their fans clip the shows, which for the longest time hasn't been available. So I like it in the sense that like it's a new way for people to share the things that they love. And if we can get people to share more content that they're ingesting, as opposed to having it always be, a perfect like Instagram photo, then that's a good way to kind of still allow your friends and like the people you actually care to hear about share things that they love and not have it be like you have to continue following like creators and all that.
That makes
Yeah, that's also indicative of the Netflix moving to the behavior that people are already doing.
Hmm.
Because people have already found their ways to clip clips.
Yeah.
But now they're like, fine, you're doing it anyway. Here
Hmm.
are the keys. It might as well come from us.
Right.
in free
And if they
marketing.
put that little watermark in there versus like not have it, then it's a benefit to them.
It's actually brilliant. Like, yeah, let everybody's already doing word of mouth. Let them like
Hmm.
market your videos in the format that they already like to consume videos anyways, which is short clips. Like as uncomfortable as it might make those folks, at least the IP attorneys, feel like that, it seems like a great idea. I'm glad to see they're
Right.
doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
I see a little
So
clip of something that everyone's talking about, like then I'm gonna watch it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that that's kind of, you go where your user is going. And if they're already doing a certain behavior that you can help facilitate, like it's on you to like update your product to do that, especially for big companies like this, Netflix, Meta, finally getting on board to what their users have been doing for, eons.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like they've been hacking it together, but now like the companies are actually giving the people what they want, which is awesome.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for joining us this week. We loved all your hot takes on everything. Where can people find you?
Find me on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, at Kristen Culver. I spell Kristen with a C, Kristin, Kristen Culver, and would love to connect with everyone there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Kristen.
It was fun to yap with you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's all for our show today. Don't forget to follow us at Meme Team Pod on YouTube and then at Meme Team Podcast on Spotify. And then we just launched on TikTok, so you can follow us at Meme Team Podcast there as well.
Add right now.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Bye, everyone.